India and China to hold fifth commander-level talks today at Moldo. Talks to focus on complete disengagement by China along the LAC. Flood situation in Bihar continues to remain critical as number of affected increased to 49 lakh in the state. Water level in the river Budi Gandak continues to flow above the danger mark. In Assam, flood scenario shows signs of improvement. India sees the highest COVID-19 recovery in the last 24 hours with more than 51,000 recoveries. Case fatality rate improves further to 2.13%. Genome sequencing of 1,000 corona patients completed to help researchers determine the effects of the virus in various regions of the country. Globally, Mexico surpasses United Kingdom to become the country with the third highest number of deaths due to COVID-19. US worst affected with over 1,57,000 deaths, closely followed by Brazil with over 93,000 deaths due to the pandemic. Global case tally nears 1 crore 80 lakhs. In sports, IPL Governing Council meeting today to decide on the IPL season this year. Issues of IPL venue and sponsorship to be the main focus of the meeting. Good morning, welcome to English News. I am Anil Thomas. Now for the stories in detail. India and Chinese army commanders will be meeting today to discuss the disengagement of the Pangong Song, and this particular meeting will take place at Moldo on the Chinese side of the LAC. This is the fifth commander level talks between India and China since the standoff began in May. Well, for more on that story, Nandita Dagara, correspondent tracking that story for us, joining us this morning. Nandita, good morning. Nandita, looking at the way things stand, we've had 4 rounds of commander level talks. They have been engaging, but have they been fruitful, and what do you expect in the 5th round of meetings, where we heard the MEA spokesperson say that's going to be a long long engagement when it comes to talks between the two sides?
Yes, hi, good morning, Anil. We know that this round of talks is tricky because this is discussing Pangong So. And as for the question of the earlier 4 rounds, them being fruitful or not, yes, so I would say that they have been fruitful because the disengagement at Gogra Hot Springs and Galwan Petrol Point 14 have happened post those talks. And these 3 round of talks, June 22nd, June 30th and July 14th. These 3 rounds were held after the June 15th bloody Galwan clash. And on the June 6th meeting, of course, was the beginning of this process, and that happened before the June 15th bloody Galwan clash. As far as Anil, which means that the positions of the Chinese position on the LAC, the line which was prevalent in be restored, and the people we've spoken to expect this meeting.
Well, I believe he's having some technical problems there. We'll try and patch to Nandita soon. Moving ahead now, taking a look at an update on the COVID-19 numbers from across the country. India sees the highest COVID-19 recovery in the last 24 hours with more than 51,000 recoveries. As per the latest data released by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, the mortality rate has declined to 2.13% in the country. A total of 11,45,629 people have recovered in the country so far. With this, the recovery rate has reached to 65.44%. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan has announced the successful completion of the pan-India 1,000 genome sequencing of the SARS-CoV-2. He also launched the largest network of 5 dedicated COVID-19 biorepositories established by the Department of Biotechnology in record time. He dedicated them to the nation. Complementing the relentless efforts of DBT, Dr. Harshvardhan said that this information is important for public health response initiatives requiring investigations into the transmissions of COVID-19. The sequence data will soon be released in the global initiative on sharing all influenza data to be used by the researchers across the globe. Information in the database will improve the understanding on how the virus is spreading and help to interrupt the transmission chains. The Department of Biotechnology launched a pan-India SARS-CoV-2 RNA genome sequencing program in May. The consortium of participants has achieved its initial goal of completing the sequencing of 1,000 genome swabs collected from those who tested positive for COVID-19. The main purpose of these biorepositories are archiving inactivated viruses and clinical samples. Meanwhile, 16 vaccine candidates are in different stages of development. The BCG vaccine is undergoing phase 3 trial. The Cadila DNA vaccine is in phase 1 and 2 trial, and 4 vaccine candidates are in advanced stages of pre-clinical study. Minister of Health and Family Welfare Dr. Harshvardhan said that the genome testing will not only help India but researchers across the globe. Government has decided to permit the export of ventilators. The Health Ministry said that in India, fewer number of active cases are on ventilators, and the group of ministers, the GOM on COVID-19, has considered and agreed to the proposal of the ministry allowing the export of made in India ventilators. The export restrictions on ventilators was imposed in March this year to ensure domestic availability to effectively fight COVID-19. All types of ventilators were prohibited for export. In a bid to augment the testing facilities, Odisha government allowed private hospitals, nursing homes and laboratories to conduct COVID-19 tests through rapid antigen and RT-PCR methods. The department issued a separate set of guidelines for conducting sample tests both under rapid antigen and RT-PCR. Sample test results should first be informed to the state authorities before being released to the person whose test was conducted. For rapid antigen tests, the private bodies can charge a maximum of 450 rupees, while the price for the RT-PCR test is fixed at 2,200 per person. The manpower has to be deployed for the purpose must be trained properly in consultation with the Chief District Medical and Public Health Officers. Well, time now for an update from the flood-affected states of Bihar and Assam. Moving first to Bihar, where there has been no respite in the flood situation, with 1,043 panchayats across 14 districts of the state still affected. The flood-affected population has also increased to 45 lakh 5,000, and over 4 lakh people were evacuated from flood-affected areas by 29 NDRF and SDRF teams undertaking relief and rescue operations. Munger, Darbhanga, Samastipur and Purnia are some of the worst affected districts of the state. The catchment areas of Nepal have received heavy to moderate rainfall during the last 24 hours. The Met Department predicts light to moderate rainfall in the catchment areas of all the rivers located in Nepal and Bihar in the next 2 days. The flood scenario in Assam is showing signs of improvement, with no new cases of human life being reported lost in the last 24 hours. However, 20 of the 33 districts of the state are still affected by flood waters. Over 10,62,000 people in 1,295 villages are still affected. The number of relief camps in the state is 122, where 29,220 people are taking shelter. 55% of the Kaziranga National Park is still submerged. There have also been reports of flood and erosion due to Beki River in the Manas National Park in Baksa district. Social Welfare Minister of Assam, Promila Rani Brahma, visited the flood-affected areas of Kokrajhar and took stock of the situation there on ground zero. Heading north to Punjab, where the death toll in the Punjab Hooch tragedy rose to 86. In a massive crackdown, the state police conducted over 100 raids in the 3 affected districts of Amritsar, rural Gurdaspur and Taran, along with several other places in and around Rajpura and Shambhu border. 17 more people have been arrested in this particular case. The total number of arrests in the case have gone up to 25 now. This includes a mafia mastermind, a woman kingpin, a transport owner, a wanted criminal, and owners and managers of various dhabas from where this illicit liquor was being supplied. The police have also seized large quantities of raw material used to make country liquor called Lakh from various villages and dhabas in the region. The raids have exposed a massive racket in illicit liquor. 3 dhabas on Shambhu and Banu and Rajpura in Patiala have been sealed. As many as 750 litres of Lakh have been seized from village Bagora. 2 people identified as Satnam and Rashem have also been arrested from Bagora, while another, Lakhwinta, has been identified as a culprit. Meanwhile, Punjab Chief Minister Amrinder Singh has ordered the suspension as well as inquiry against 7 excise and taxation officers and inspectors in connection with the Hooch tragedy. He said those found guilty will not be spared, and the CM has also announced a 2 lakhs ex gratia for families of each of those deceased. In a tragic incident in Visakhapatnam, at least 11 people were killed when a huge rail-mounted crane collapsed during a trial run at the Hindustan Shipyard Limited premise on Saturday. 9 workers were killed on the spot, while 2 more workers died on the way to hospital. 4 of the victims were employees of HSL, while the rest belonged to a contracting agency. An inquiry committee has been formed by the state government to look into the reasons of the accident. Meanwhile, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh expressed condolences over the loss of lives in the accident. He said he was extremely anguished by the loss of lives at the facility and his thoughts are with the bereaved families. He also wished speedy recovery of the injured. The Defence Minister also informed that a department inquiry committee has been instituted to establish the cause leading to the accident. The government has decided to increase the scope of 3 lakh crore window for individuals who have availed loan for businesses purpose. Under the improved scheme, now truck owners, CAs, doctors, etc. who have taken loans for business purpose can apply for this credit line. Under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, Cabinet has approved this special window for MSMEs on the 20th of May. Of these 3 lakh crores, 1.37 lakh crores has been sanctioned and 87,000 has been dispersed so far. Finance Ministry hopes that with this new window, credit of 1 lakh crore will be extended to all beneficiaries. Time now to take a look at the global COVID-19 updates from across the globe. They continue to rise. The number of cases, the COVID-19 has claimed the lives of over 6,88,000 people worldwide, while over 1 crore 80 lakh people have contracted the infection. Over 1 crore 13 lakh people have also recovered across the world from this particular pandemic. United States and Brazil remain the worst affected in terms of COVID-19 infections and fatalities. And United States has so far recorded over 47,63,000 cases and over 1,57,000 deaths, while Brazil has crossed the 27 lakh mark when it comes to infections and recorded over 93,000 deaths. Mexico, meanwhile, racked up a record number of new confirmed COVID-19 infections on Saturday, registering more than 9,000 daily cases for the first time and passing the previous peak for the second day running. The new record in cases came a day after Mexico overtook Britain as the country with the 3rd highest number of deaths caused by coronavirus pandemic. At present, 4,34,000 cases have been reported in Mexico, while 47,472 people have lost their lives due to COVID-19 so far. World Health Organization, that's WHO, has warned that the COVID-19 pandemic is likely to be lengthy. The Emergency Committee on WHO met to evaluate the crisis 6 months after sounding the international alarm. The committee also warned of the risk of response fatigue given the socio-economic pressures on countries. The panel gathered for the fourth time over the COVID-19 crisis. The committee highlighted the importance of sustained community, national, regional and global response efforts. The committee has urged the WHO to provide nuanced and pragmatic guidance on COVID-19 reactions to reduce the risk of response fatigue in the context of socio-economic pressures. In Germany, thousands of people flooded the streets of Berlin on Saturday, the majority of them not wearing masks to protest the latest COVID-19 measures introduced by the government. The crowd said the restrictions violated the people's rights and freedom. Earlier, German Economy Minister Peter Altmaier talked on tougher action on COVID-19 rule breakers, saying anyone who deliberately endangers others must expect that this will have serious consequences for them. Also, according to the new directive from Germany's health ministry, all travelers coming to Germany will be able to get free COVID-19 tests up to 72 hours after arrival. The number of infections in Germany has been on a rise recently, with 955 new cases recorded on Saturday and 870 cases on Friday. The surge has been attributed to the public becoming negligent and hygiene and social distancing rules not being followed. Kuwait has meanwhile suspended commercial flights from 31 countries on the advice of the health authorities as the Gulf state reopened its airport to such operations. However, other flights will resume. While countries on the barred list include India, Iran, China, Brazil, Lebanon, Spain, Singapore, Egypt and Sri Lanka. The airport resumed commercial flights on Saturday as part of a phased reopening after a 5-month suspension when the country imposed measures to control the spread of COVID-19. It plans to reach full capacity by mid-2021. In some other news, the European Union has called for a more united approach from its 27 member countries against China. EU's High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy, Joseph Borrell, said that China has become more aggressive in its neighborhood, especially in the South China Sea or at the border with India. He also said that Chinese leaders did not hesitate to leave aside international commitments with the imposition of the Hong Kong national security law. Borrell said and called for a more coordinated approach among the EU, US and other democratic powers like India. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that changing the Chinese Communist Party's behavior cannot be the mission of the Chinese people alone. He added that China is increasingly authoritarian at home and more aggressive in its hostility to give freedom everywhere else. Hurricane Isis snapped trees and knocked down power as it blew through the Bahamas. After wreaking havoc in Bahamas, Isis weakened from a hurricane to a tropical storm but expected to regain hurricane strength overnight as it barrels towards Florida. Officials in Bahamas opened shelters for people in Abaco Island to help those who have been living in temporary structures. Meanwhile, Florida's governor has announced a state of emergency for coastal countries in wake of the hurricane. This particular hurricane was carrying top sustained winds of 85 miles per hour. The storm has prompted authorities to close COVID-19 testing sites and is expected to cause heavy rains to the state's Atlantic coast. In other news, SpaceX crew bid farewell to the International Space Station and departed aboard their SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft. NASA astronauts Robert Benken and Douglas Hurley began their 19-hour journey home that will mark the final stretch of the historic 2-month mission. Both the astronauts climbed on board their Crew Dragon spacecraft, which has been docked at the space station since the astronauts arrived in May. Capsule left the space station yesterday and began its trek to a splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. The capsule is expected to reach its water landing later in the day today if the weather remains favorable. NASA and SpaceX have been keeping a close eye on the hurricane, which is expected to approach Florida's east coast this weekend. NASA and SpaceX will co-host continuous webcast coverage all the way up to splashdown. On to sports, the Indian government is yet to give a go-ahead for shifting the 13th edition of the Indian Premier League to United Arab Emirates. It's been more than 10 days since the BCCI has applied for the government's permission, but the concerned ministries are yet to give the green signal to the league in UAE. Without the government's permissions, neither the league dates can be officially announced or schedules can be finalized. The BCCI is in a complete fix at this stage. Neither the BCCI nor any other stakeholders involved can finalize the logistics for the league, which is just 48 days away. Without the official nod from the government, there will be even more question marks over the relevance of the IPL Governing Council meeting that is scheduled for today. Prime focus of the meeting will be on IPL venues and sponsorship. Arsenal's talisman Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang worked his Wembley magic once again and scored twice to secure a 2-1 win over 10-man Chelsea in the FA Cup final on Saturday and a spot in next season's Europa League. Victory at an empty Wembley Stadium earned the manager his first silverware as Arsenal manager after he left his role as Pep Guardiola's assistant at Manchester City to replace Emery in December. Chelsea took the lead inside 5 minutes through Christian Pulisic's smart finish, but then fell victim to the brilliance of Aubameyang. The Gabon forward drew Arsenal level from the penalty spot before the break after he was fouled by Chelsea captain Caesar, then produced a moment of world-class finishing to make it a defining contribution in helping Arsenal lift the FA Cup for a record 14th time. Back home, Alco Petrol breath analyzers will be pressed into service in Assam by the Department of Excise under a special initiative. Through this ultra-sophisticated breath analyzer machine, a person who is under the influence of alcohol will be detected from a distance in just 5 seconds. Excise Department has procured 250 breath analyzer machines, which will be very useful and handy during the COVID times. The machine is equipped with Alco Petrol charging, camera and thermal printer. Meanwhile, the process is on for distributing these machines to the Excise Department offices in every district. In an exclusive conversation with our correspondent Duina Barbera, the PRO of Excise Department, Shailendra Pandey, said this sophisticated breath analyzer machine will help in quickly detecting the boozers and will create those who create nuisance in public life in just 5 seconds and enables initiating swift legal action against them.
न्यू टेक्नोलॉजी जो अल्ट्रा मॉडर्न टेक्नोलॉजी है, दूर से ही बिना फूंक मारे ही उन लोग का कितना शराब पिया है, कहाँ मतलब उन लोग को ज़्यादा ले सकते हैं, उसके ऊपर हम लोग नया ब्रेथ एनालाइजर मशीन यहाँ पे हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में 250 तो सर्कुल में एक्साइज का डिस्ट्रीब्यूट किया है, जिसके ज़रिए हम लोग काफ़ी सुधार ला सकता है एनी अल्कोहल रिलेटेड क्राइम को कंट्रोल करने के लिए.
From police to doctors, nurses, paramedical staff, sanitation workers, state administration and municipal corporation, all of them came together under one single umbrella with one goal, that was to break the chain of virus in Mumbai's Dharavi region. Dharavi witnessed a surge in COVID-19 cases on a daily basis, but after a long fight, Dharavi succeeded in bending the curve of COVID-19 and setting a shining example to the world to overcome this pandemic together. हमने कर दिखाया अब तुम्हारी भारी है. Let's listen to this rap number by the Dharavi Dream Project.
हमने कर दिखाया तुम्हारी बारी है, हमने कर दिखाया तुम्हारी बारी है, हमने कर दिखाया तुम्हारी बारी है. धारावी में केस देखो कम होते जा रहे हैं, हमने कर दिखाया तुम्हारी बारी है, हमने कर दिखाया तुम्हारी बारी है, हमने कर दिखाया तुम्हारी बारी है. धारावी में केस देखो कम होते जा रहे हैं, जैसे हम कर दिखाए अब तुम्हारी बारी है. धारावी में कोरोना को जड़ से मिटा दिए, इतनी बड़ी आबादी में भी हम करके दिखा दिए, हम बने एग्जाम्पल. अब आपकी बारी है, उम्मीद रखो सब कुछ होगा ठीक. फासले तुम रखो मत करो भीड़, मास्क अपना कवच करो, से न्यूज़ और फेस दोनों कवर. फेक न्यूज़ और गलत मैसेज को मत करो फॉरवर्ड.
Well, remember, it's a Sunday today and it's time for me to say goodbye, but see to it that you don't get out of your house today. If you have to get out of your house, if it's a necessity, follow all the guidelines, wearing the mask, following physical distancing. also washing your hands or using the sanitizer regularly to keep yourself safe. Remember, we need to stay safe to see a better tomorrow. Thanks for watching.